Hi dudettes, welcome back to another Redstone video. Now, in this video, this is going to be the first episode of Redstone Crash Course, in which I'm going to try and teach you guys about redstone. Now, there is some stuff I want to tell you first. First, I would recommend, if you want redstone, to install a mod that can slow down time. I personally use Replay Mod, which is a mod that you can make recordings in your world of, and then you can watch those recordings later. And there is a time setting in there, so you can watch them in slow motion. I also will be using some terminology in this video, like ticks and strong and weak powering. Don't worry too much when I say strong and weak powering, since I'll be going over that later in the video. And ticks, well, I'm not talking about game ticks when I say ticks, unless I explicitly say game ticks. Whenever I say ticks, I'm talking about redstone ticks, which happen 10 times every second. Game ticks happen 20 times every second. Hope that clears some stuff up. Alright, let's get into teaching. So the first component we're going to be going over is Redstone Dust. It can be powered using power sources like this lever here. It gradually loses power and it starts at 15. Every Redstone Dust level, except for Redstone Dust level 0, and power things. It gradually goes down from 15 to 14, all the way to 0, and 1 is the highest it can power things. Redstone Dust automatically redirects itself into things that can emit power, as well as other Redstone Dust, Redstone Repeaters, and Redstone Comparators. It doesn't do this for anything else. As for the observer here, it redirects into this end, not this end. This is the power for Redstone Dust. It powers here, powers here, powers here, but it does not power upward. You can right-click Redstone Dust, and basically what that does, Redstone Dust always powers the block underneath it, but powering these blocks are toggleable. Technically, it can power stuff like this. This is technically what it can power, but I'll be getting into that later, so don't be too confused. Also, the way it can power is not the same as the way it can be powered. Like, it can be powered from here, 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 but it can also be powered from above it. If there's strong powering, of course, not weak powering. Again, we'll get into that later. Next thing we're going to be getting into is the Redstone Torch. This is off, and we turn this on, which powers this block, and then this torch, since it's accepting power, it will turn off. Redstone torches are a power source unless the block they're on is receiving power. You can also stack them like this. Alternatively, you can place redstone torches on blocks, and the same rule of powering applies. You can also stack these. Make sure to never do a redstone torch setup up like this. Otherwise, it'll be like a sort of redstone clock, but if a redstone torch is powered on and off too quickly, then it'll burn out until it's, like, updated again. This is the way it's powered for normal, like, on the block below it, and this is how it's powered if it's on a block like this. As I've already said, redstone torches can only be powered by the block they're on. I also forgot to mention, Redstone Torches have a 1-tick delay. The next thing we're going to be getting into is the Redstone Repeater. Redstone Repeaters, in their normal state, have a delay of 1 tick, but this can be changed by right-clicking a repeater. Like, this is 1 tick, now it's 2 ticks, now it's 3 ticks, and now it's 4. This one is 4 ticks. Redstone repeaters can prevent redstone signals from dying down, like 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. If any redstone signal goes into the backside of repeater, then the front side emits a power of 15. Redstone torches do that too, but redstone repeaters can be faster. Actually, just gonna put this out there now. Every redstone component that I says power something emits a power signal of 15 unless I explicitly say otherwise. You can also lock repeaters. So basically what this does, if I power this repeater that's going into here, then it's going to lock. And what that means is that it's going to stay in this state forever, and nothing can change that. This also works if it's on, then this power is going to stay on even if I turn off the lever. You can also lock repeaters with comparators, but I'm not really sure why you'd need to. This is the power grid for a repeater, and you can only power it from here. Now let's get into strong and weak powering. So, if I click on this lever, then this redstone signal will not be able to do it here. But if I use a repeater, it goes through just fine. Let me explain. So, this redstone signal is weak powering this block. And Redstone Dust cannot accept weak powering, so it doesn't go through. This redstone repeater here strongly powers this block, and Redstone Dust can accept strong powering, so it goes through here. Redstone Dust is really the only thing that can accept weak powering. Redstone repeaters can accept weak powering. Redstone torches can accept weak powering. Redstone comparators can, and redstone lamps. Here is everything that can strongly power. Lever if it's facing the right way. Button if it's facing the right way. Pressure plate if it's facing the right way. Repeater. Comparator. An observer can strongly power. This detector rail here can strongly power. Block below it. Tripwire hooks can strongly power. As you can see, that's on. Redstone Torches can strongly power. If I were to summon a lightning bolt right here, let me just do the command. That can strongly power. Also, Lecterns can strongly power. But we'll get into those later. Now, only opaque full blocks can be weak or strongly powered. I tried to do it with a block that Minecraft considers transparent, like glass or leaves, then it won't go through. This also applies to blocks that aren't full blocks, like hoppers. Okay, so you're probably thinking to yourself, so when this thing powers like this block, then it goes in all directions. It's always like strong powering. And then this right here, which can is only being powered here, and doesn't power the adjacent blocks, is weak powering. Well, that's not true, because if this were strong powering, then the redstone dust here would be able to accept that. However, it can accept it here. Well, just because a block is accepting power does not mean it's being powered. Like, this redstone lamp here is accepting power. But even if I put a repeater which can accept weak powering, it doesn't accept that. But this block is powered. It's weak powered, but it's still powered. And this block is strong powered, which is powering. You get that? Alright. Now let's get to the observer. Observers can detect if a block is placed or broken. It can also detect block updates. Like if I fill this up, it's gonna send out a 1-tick redstone pulse. However, it can't detect things like if a block is powered or not. The reason this is happening is because there's no tag here that indicates if a block is powered or not. But there is a level, sort of, well, not sort of, actually, yes, that is a tag and can be detected by an observer. As you can see, the tag is changing, but no tag is changing here. You can set observers up like this so that they do a redstone clock. Like, the reason this is happening, like, is this. Like, I place redstone observer here. This observer detects that and changes state, which this observer detects, and so on and so on. It's a way to make a 1-tick clock. This is the power grid for the redstone observer. You'll notice that it's not flickering, which you'll notice when we get to the redstone lamp, which I'll explain. This is a redstone lamp. It's pretty simple. If it's receiving power, it turns on, and if it's not, it doesn't. But when it receives power, it turns on instantly. But when it stops receiving power, as you can see, it takes a little delay. And since this is a 1-tick redstone clock, then this is going to be powered forever. Now to get the pistons and sticky pistons. Both take 1.5 ticks to extend and retract. What's the difference? Well, the piston can push blocks but can't pull them back. The sticky piston can push a block and pull it back. Though it's possible for a sticky piston to spit out its block like normal piston. Like, since it takes 1.5 ticks for it to extend, if I give it only a 1-tick pulse, it's going to do that. If I give it another update, it's going to pull that back. Both pistons and sticky pistons have 12 block push limit. Like, if I push that up, it can push that up just fine, but this is 13 blocks, and it can't do that. It also cannot push container blocks like this furnace, this chest, and also obsidian, which isn't a container block, but it's also not movable by pistons. Right? So, with this sticky piston, you can push all of these blocks up, but you can only pull one down. How do you fix that? Well, with slime and honey blocks, I can push these up, and then these slime blocks are very sticky, so all of these blocks will do this. The same applies to honey blocks. So, there is one limitation to this. Blocks that slime blocks attached to add up to the push limit. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 blocks here, but there are 12 blocks here, so that adds up to 24. If you want to push and pull these blocks, and it's only going to be like 6 blocks here, because then this will be 12 and the max it can go. Slime blocks and honey blocks do have some differences though. Firstly, slime blocks and honey blocks can stick to almost anything, never each other. Honey blocks tend to stick things to them, as you can see. Now slime blocks tend to bounce out. Last but not least, Minecraft considers slime blocks to be opaque blocks, considers honey blocks to be transparent. Next up, the redstone block, which is another power source. It's movable by pistons. This is its power grid. Next, the lightning bolt. This is a power source, but the only time it ever activates is when a lightning bolt hits it. Like if I do this now, it's gonna send out a signal pulse for as long as the lightning bolt is on it. These are the power grids of lightning bolts, like there, that's the power grid. This is the power grid. Moving on to hoppers. They transfer items every 4 ticks. Like if I put a stack in here, it's gonna push these items into here every 4 ticks. So the hoppers push items into other hoppers or containers that this little knob right here is directly facing into. If I do it here, you'll notice it's doing it 2 at a time. That's because this here is facing into that. Hoppers can also pull, and they pull from hoppers directly above them. This here is going to pull, but this knob is not facing that way. It's only going to do it 1 at a time. You can lock hoppers so they basically become lazy. This hopper is still going to be accepting items, but because this hopper is shoving it in, but this hopper can't pull items from here, so they're just going to stay here. Next up is the lever. We've been over this before. It's a toggleable power source. These are its power grids, like, yeah. This is a button. This is kind of like the lever. It does the exact same powering thing as a lever, but this stone button here powers this for 1 second and then it turns off. If it's a wooden button, it's going to power it for 1.5 seconds and then turn off. If I get a bow or shoot arrows in any way, stone arrows are not powered by buttons, but wooden ones are, and that is going to stay on until this is done, like until that arrow despawns. This is the power grid for a button. Next up, pressure plates. Now there are 4 different types of pressure plates. We've got the stone one and the wooden one, and then the lightweighted and the heavyweighted. Now the stone pressure plate can detect spheres and mobs that walk on it. Same can the woman one. But I drop any entity that isn't like a mob on there. Like on a stone one, it's not going to check that, but a wooden one will. Now, light-weighted and heavy-weighted are rather interesting. Like, if there's one entity on here, they both emit a signal strength of 1. But say I put another entity on here and another entity on here, this is going to be 2 and this is going to be 1. That's because basically they each function the same for the first entity, but this power goes another signal strength for every more entity placed on it, and this one goes up for every 10 entities put onto here after the one original entity. This is the power grid for pressure plate. Next, let's get into dispensers and droppers. Now, at first glance, they seem pretty similar. They dispense items at a random length. But there is a difference. Actually, 2 differences, which I'll get into. These both have fireworks rockets in them. The dropper will just drop them out. Dispensers will actually fire them. The same goes for stuff like fire charges. They also have another difference. I can use this dropper as a sort of item elevator. Now it's up here, I push this button, now it's up here, and so on, and so on, and then I can push it out here. This does not work with dispensers, instead it just does that. Next, the Lectern. It gives off a redstone signal every time a page is turned. This is its power grid. Next, the target block. Now, this one is kind of interesting because it has a use, one that was intended by Mojang, but one that wasn't intended by Mojang, and is used a lot more than the use that is intended. The first one that the target block can be is, well, a target block. Like, you can shoot arrows into here, and it gives off a varying signal depending on how accurate the arrow is. This here is just like a signal length preserver. Like, I can do this here. Like, if there's a signal length of 1, are not too good, but if I do like a bullseye or near bullseye, then it's gonna go up quite a bit. The next use is compaction. Say there's some redstone around here, and I can't just like send like a lever here and send it across here. That wouldn't work. I need to do this, take it here, and I need to bend another one here, so it bends into this block and powers this piston. Target blocks can do it much better, since redstone automatically redirects into things that can emit power, and target block can emit power if you shoot a bow into it, then you can compact it. Next, let's get into the daylight detector. Now, it can be not inverted and inverted. This is going to give off a varying signal depending on what time of day it is. This isn't night, so it's not going to give off anything. So it doesn't rely on time of day, it actually relies on light level. So this is on, right? Since it's day, you expect this to not be inverted, but this is in fact inverted. But since it can't detect any light, and it's thinking to itself, well, hey, there's not any light, so it must be nighttime. This is the power grid. Next, the tripwire hook. You need string to place it on the ground, then your tripwire hook can be activated. You also need two on either side and a piece of string. When someone walks over this, like a player or a mob, or even an item, then these two blocks are going to be powered, like strongly powered. This is a trap chest. If it's open, it gives off a single strength of 1. And next, the note block. If I right-click it, then it's gonna play, but it's also gonna gradually change pitch. Which can be useful if you want to change the pitch, but if you don't, you can power it through redstone. You can also left-click it if you're in survival, but I'm not in survival. It gives off a different instrument depending on the block it's on. Like this is on sandstone, and this is on dirt, so it's going to be a piano, actually a harp. And this is on sand, and it's going to be a snare. No blocks do not play sound if there is a block above it. Next, doors, trapdoors, and gates. You can power these through redstone as well as manually. This applies to the trapdoor and the gate. But for the iron door and trapdoor, there are no iron gates, sadly. You can power them through redstone all you want, but you cannot power them manually. This is TNT, which is in the redstone tab, and isn't really that much of redstone component, but I'll get into anyways. It can be dispensed through dispensers, but if it receives a redstone signal or it gets into contact with fire, then we'll do the redstone signal. It fuses, and then it explodes. As you can see, that can destroy items. It would hurt me if I were in survival, but if it lands in water, it's not going to do any damage to our world. If it wasn't in water, then it would have blown stuff up. Next, minecart and rail. This is like rail track, but it's not easy to build momentum up with them. You can make it go up rocks, around curves, anything you want, but it's not easy to build momentum with. This is where powered rails come in. Now, they can't do curves, but they can go up block. And if I get into this minecart here, it's slower than normal rails. If it receives a redstone power, it's going to be very fast. Activator rails are just as fast as normal rails, but if it receives power, then I go off, and this is just gonna like shake until I turn this off. This is a detector rail. If any minecart goes over it, now puts a redstone signal until the minecart is off of it. Now let's get into the special types of minecarts. This is a minecart with chest. You can't ride it, but there is a user interface, and I can store as many items in there as I could a normal chest. You can also accept hopper inputs. And so that's pretty cool. Next we get into the minecart with hopper, and this can accept input from hoppers, and it has way less storage than a minecart with chest, but what use could it possibly have? Let me explain. This hopper here, it can accept items from right above it. It can get these items from like a half slab. You can even get these through pretty tall blocks that aren't full blocks, but never a full block. This is where the minecart with hopper comes in, because minecarts with hoppers can do that. So even if it's just like even a little carpet on top of it, no way. They can also go through hoppers. Like if there is minecart with hopper on top of a hopper, then it's going to send that through the hopper. Basically because this is above it, and it's going to suck that out. Minecarts with chests can do that too, though. It's meaning like the one block above it thing that you would need to use minecart with hopper. This is a minecart with a furnace. It cannot be ridden, but if you right-click on it with any block that can be used as fuel in a furnace, and it's going to go in a specific direction. If I were to let it run free, it would be going that way. And last but not least, minecart with TNT, which can just like sort of do this. It's a normal unrideable minecart until it goes over a detector rail or it hits a block, in which actually activate a rail in which it'll explode or detonate. If it hits a block, it'll explode instantly. Minecarts with TNT, unlike normal TNTs, never destroy the block that rails are on. Next, we get into Glazed Terracotta. And yes, Glazed Terracotta is a redstone component, sort of. It is movable with pistons. Like, you can push it up, but you cannot pull this down. And this is a sticky piston. You cannot push this down no matter how hard you try. They also do not stick to slime or honey bottles. They're just there. It can be moved. It can be pushed by normal and sticky pistons. Now it's time to get into the most complex and versatile redstone component, the redstone comparator. Now, this is actually pretty cool. Like, the first use it has, and yes, there are quite a bit, it can detect, like, how full something is. And by how full it is, I don't mean, like, how many blocks are inside it. Like, it doesn't rely on that. Like, this gives off a redstone signal of 1, and this gives off a redstone signal of 3. It doesn't use the amount of items in a container to determine what signal to output. It uses like the percentage of how full one is. Like, this is a fifth of the way full, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. It doesn't just have to use containers with an item interface. It can also use stuff like lecterns, which detect like which page it is turned to, as well as end portal frames, which give off comparator signal of 15 if there is an item there, and 0 if there isn't. Now let's get into another use. So let's look at the redstone signal here. It goes 15, 14, then into the comparator, then 14, 13. Yes, comparators can preserve signal length. The same signal length that goes into the comparator is what comes out of the comparator. Like this, you can preserve signal lengths. It's 14. Oh, it is pretty slow. So this is a more efficient way of doing it. It's 2 times faster. There is a way we can make it even faster. As you can see, like, blocks have a similar property to comparators in which that same signal that goes into it is what comes out. though it doesn't work with Redstone Dust like Comparators do because of strong and powering. This here is 0 and these two are 1. So you can do it like this, which is 3 times faster than the original design over there. So this is the method I use for transporting redstone signals to around and about in my signal multiplier. I also have a third use in which you can power it like this, yeah, and this is not there. But if we put this lever on, then it's not going to go through. So if a signal strength that goes into the side of the comparator is stronger than the signal length that goes into the comparator, then it's not going to output anything at all. This is weaker, so it can still go through. And by saying stronger, I do mean stronger, not just like as strong as. Like, this is 14, and this is 14. This isn't stronger than this, it's just the same signal length, so this still goes through. But this here, 15 is stronger than 14, so nothing goes through. And the fourth and final use, if you ever right-click the comparator before, you've probably seen this thing turn on and off, and probably wondered what it does. Well, let me show you. This is compare mode, but if I right-click it, you'll see it goes into subtract mode. And that is exactly what it's for. This is a signal length of 14, and then, as you know, it outputs 14. And we go 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. 14 minus 10 is going to be 4. It doesn't work with negative numbers, though, as you probably guessed. Like, 0 minus 10 is going to be 0 because that's the lowest it can go. If you have multiple signals going into a subtract comparator, like 15 minus 13 is going to be 2, and then as well as 15 minus 13 and 15 minus 14, it's going to subtract with whichever one of these signal strengths is the strongest. So since 14 is stronger than 13, it's going to go 15 minus 14 is going to be 1. But if we turn that off, 13 is stronger than 0, so 15 minus 13 is going to be 2. We've gone over all of the redstone components and soft and hard powering. And now there's one more thing I want to get into, which is Quasi Connectivity. If I flick this lever here, it's not going to do anything out of the ordinary. But if I flick this lever here, it's going to power this one and the one below it. This is how Quasi Connectivity works in this situation. It's going to power the piston powered and the piston below it. This happens with pistons and sticky piston. Quasi Connectivity does not interact with all things equally. Like, as you can see, if I shoot it out like this, then it's gonna activate these in a sort of cross formation. Same goes with the droppers. It also relies on rotation. Like, if the pistons are facing this way, and I flick this one, it's only gonna power that one. And say I do it this way, they're gonna power in a cross formation like the dispensers and droppers do. Dispensers and droppers react to Quasi Connectivity in the exact same way no matter what direction they are facing. And guys, this is it. This is the end of this episode of Redstone Crash Course, and I really hope you enjoyed and learned something new. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. I have a surprise every time I reach a sub goal, my current sub goal is 50 subs, so let's reach it. But now, this is the end of the video. So, bye guys!